Title: The Quiet One. The Georgia heat clung to his skin like a warning. Humid, heavy, and filled with the unspoken rules of high school hierarchy. Jonah Carter stepped off the faded yellow school bus and took his first look at Westbrook High. Towering red brick walls gleamed in the sun, windows sparkling, flags fluttering just slightly in the breeze. The landscaping was so perfect it looked artificial. This was not a place for mistakes. Not a place for people like him. Jonah adjusted the straps of his backpack, his expression unreadable. He had mastered the art of staying neutral, of blending in. A quiet demeanor. A gaze that held just enough presence to avoid pity, but not enough to invite challenge. He had no plans to stand out. His goal was simple: finish the year, keep his head down, and avoid the attention of those who ruled schools like Westbrook. But intentions and reality rarely matched. The inside of the building buzzed with activity. Lockers slammed, sneakers squeaked on the polished tile, and the scent of expensive perfume mingled with the cafeteria's early lunch prep. Jonah walked past the chaos, each step carefully measured, each glance casual. He passed a group of cheerleaders who turned mid-laugh to eye him. A couple of nerds in matching hoodies huddled by the library door arguing about some math theory. Nothing here was different. The hierarchy was clear. And at the center of it all stood Logan Mercer. Jonah didn't need an introduction. Logan was unmistakable, tall, broad-shouldered, with artfully messy blonde hair, and that particular brand of smugness that only came from generations of money and immunity. A Westbrook legacy. The football team's golden boy. The one who spoke and others obeyed. He was leaning against a locker now, arms folded, surrounded by his inner circle of athletes and enablers, tossing out jokes like grenades. His laugh echoed across the hall, confident, entitled, practiced. Jonah hoped, truly hoped, that their paths wouldn't cross. But fate, or maybe cruelty, had other plans. As Jonah passed, a hardship came from nowhere. His balance broke. A textbook fell from his grasp and landed with a heavy slap on the ground. For a moment, the hallway noise softened, like someone had pressed pause. "Watch it," came a lazy voice with mock sweetness. Jonah looked up. Logan stood over him, still smirking, like he'd just stepped into a scene he'd rehearsed 1,000 times. Well, Logan said, tilting his head with mock interest. "Didn't know we had a new kid. You lost, boy." The word boy wasn't casual. It was chosen. Deliberate. Sharp. Jonah inhaled slowly. He'd been through this game before. He knew the rules. He didn't flinch. He bent to retrieve his book, his movements calm, measured. "I'm good," Jonah said flatly. "No problem here." Logan arched a brow. "Quiet one, huh? What's your name?" "Jonah. Jonah Carter." "Carter?" Logan repeated, chewing on the name like it was a bad flavor. "Let me guess. Single mom. New in town. Chasing a better zip code." Jonah didn't respond. He wouldn't give him what he wanted. The bait hung between them, untouched. "You play ball, Carter? Football, basketball, track? Or are you just here to fill a quota?" Jonah's voice stayed even. "Don't play anything." That threw Logan for a second. He blinked, clearly not expecting the answer. Then he chuckled. "No sports? You're gonna have a hard time making friends, new guy." Jonah gave a thin smile. "Not looking for any." He walked away without waiting for a response. Behind him, Logan's friends laughed, but it was forced, like they weren't quite sure what the joke was anymore. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Lunch was worse. The cafeteria at Westbrook was split into invisible territories. Athletes in the center, cheerleaders beside them, scholars in the back, and outsiders on the fringes. Jonah approached with a tray of spaghetti and a bottle of water, scanning for a quiet corner. He didn't make it far. A sudden shove from behind knocked the tray sideways. Sauce splattered onto the linoleum in a messy splash. Laughter erupted, sharp and loud, from Logan's table. "Damn, Carter," Troy Barnes, a linebacker built like a freight truck, grinned. "Didn't even hear you coming." Jonah stood still for a moment. He wiped his hands with a napkin, set the tray down on an empty table, and took a seat without looking up. That silence, that refusal to react, was louder than any outburst. "Man's real polite," Logan called across the room. "Gotta be, I guess, when you're in someone else's house." The cafeteria fell into an uncomfortable hush. Students watched, unsure if they should laugh, ignore it, or do something more. Logan was poking at something that went beyond jokes. Jonah finally looked up, met Logan's eyes. His stare was calm, steady, cold, and for a second, Logan faltered. By the next morning, Jonah's locker was vandalized. Thick black marker, slurs, crude drawings. labels that dripped with racism and assumption. Students slowed as they passed, pretending not to stare while doing exactly that. Logan stood nearby, arms folded, smirk fixed. Jonah didn't speak. He didn't scream. He opened his backpack, pulled out a water bottle and a wad of paper towels, and began scrubbing. It wasn't the reaction they wanted. That, more than anything, made Logan angrier. "You really gonna act like this doesn't bother you?" Logan said loudly. Jonah didn't stop, just kept cleaning. "You must be used to it, huh?" Logan added, voice tinged with cruelty. Jonah's hand paused. "Barely." Then he kept going. When he finished, he shut the locker with a loud clang, turned to Logan, and offered the smallest, coldest smile. "That was your best shot," his eyes said. Logan didn't answer. Things started shifting after that. At first, it was small. A second of hesitation before someone laughed at Logan's jokes. Averted eyes. Uneasy glances. Troy, especially, seemed less sure. At lunch, he barely looked up from his plate. Jonah saw the cracks forming. He didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He waited. Later, by the vending machines, Jonah found Troy alone. "You ever get tired of it?" he asked, casual. Troy frowned. "Tired of what?" Jonah shrugged. "Playing a role." Troy stiffened. "Ain't no role." "Sure," Jonah said. He let the silence build. "Then, you think Logan would take a hit for you?" Troy said nothing. Jonah walked away. The question hung in the air. The next morning, Logan's locker was the one with decorations. Pages of screenshots, printed texts, private messages, emails. Dozens of them. Some mean. Some vile. Some cruel beyond belief. All from Logan. All real. Students crowded around. Shocked. Disgusted. Silent. Jonah moved through the crowd calmly. His face gave away nothing, but inside, he was composed, satisfied. He hadn't created the storm. Just pointed to the clouds. Logan arrived minutes later, frantic, yanking papers off his locker. Who did this? No one answered. Because no one was on his side. Not anymore. Troy stood nearby. He didn't speak. He didn't defend. His eyes were cold. Logan turned, locking eyes with Jonah. "This was you." Jonah didn't flinch. "I didn't write those messages," he said evenly. "You did." And then he walked away. By the end of the day, Logan Mercer was finished. Not with drama or fists, but with silence. No grand confrontation. Just exposure. Just truth. And truth didn't need an audience. It just needed light. Jonah stepped outside into the sun. For the first time since he arrived at Westbrook, he exhaled fully. The weight was gone. A car waited at the curb. His brother, Turan, leaned against the hood. Jonah climbed in. "Done?" Turan asked, pulling away from the curb. Jonah nodded. "Done." Turan smirked. "Didn't even have to throw a punch?" Jonah grinned faintly. "Didn't need to." The road stretched ahead, golden in the sunlight. And behind them, Logan Mercer stood in the ruins of his reputation. Some empires fall with explosions. Others, with a whisper. And sometimes, the ones you ignore are the ones you should have feared most.